I promise there will be only a few slides, not a lot, and then we'll jump right into them, okay? And slides will just inform what we're trying to do here. So the title of the talk was Personalization at the Edge. You've heard me present some stuff before. It's kind of a continuation of that work, but I'm starting to do personalization experiments, but running inside the browser. And this is like some of my recent, whatever I've been tinkering with, I thought I'd just share with everybody and have you question and all kinds of things. That's the motivation. So I founded a company earlier, well, almost 6 months ago now, and it's called Techne. I used to be director of data science at a legal tech company here in Chicago called iManage. And before that, I completed a doctorate in computer engineering from Urbana-Champaign. So how many of you use ChatGPT? I guess the answer is already there, but I'll still ask you, like, how many of you use it on a daily basis? Everybody, right? So one thing that I have really learned, and it's like, every time I use it like all the time. What I've learned is that two things really matter for the model to do my bidding correctly. It needs to know my goal very clearly, and it needs to know my context very clearly. Like whatever it is that what I'm trying to achieve and whatever I'm up to right this moment, the more I tell it, like if I'm writing code, the more code samples I give it, or whatever, for it to get going, or whatever the other task I might be, it's like always helpful to give it a better clarity on the goal and more context about the task, right? That's just, I hope you can all agree with that. Like that's just a universal experience we're all having with these models, right? So, and how many of you have paused before submitting some data into the prompt? Anybody? Nobody? Some people. Okay. Well, you're not alone in feeling that pause. Sometimes you might be required to feel the pause and stop, because you might be, if you're a lawyer, you might be dealing with a client's data. If you're a doctor, you might be dealing with a patient's data. You're not supposed to be doing that. And that's a problem that exists, but we've somehow like put it under the carpet because we're saying, hey, it doesn't matter. This thing works 80% of the time. Let's just get it to do. OpenAI and Anthropic are going to be cool, right? They're our buddies. But really, there's a lot of like issues with this, which might ultimately catch us. The reason I say I've made those two statements back to back are a lot of context is actually private. And if the models are going to be useful, if you give them private context, and only more useful if you give them more private context, then we're sitting on a problem that kind of, the asymptote is not looking very good on this curve, is what I'm trying to say, right? So that's the problem that the company that I founded is trying to solve for, right? And this is a continuation of that series. So just a little bit more on privacy. So yeah, I probably can sit, but yeah, so privacy is a core design constraint, and I'm using that as a differentiator of what we're trying to do as a company. So here's the architecture, and this will be helpful, and you can ask me any questions about this architecture later. I'm happy to answer. I'll show you code samples, anything you want to see. It's all good. So there's a human, they are on an edge device. They have some storage and some inference capacity on the edge device, like our phones actually can run models now, and our laptops can as well. You have an API layer, it's just something you talk to, right? You have structured data, maybe it's a PostgreSDB, it is a PostgreSDB. You have a pipeline of some kind, pick your favorite mode of building a pipeline, right? And you have a lot of unstructured data on the right. And there is a lot of stuff that is here. It's like patterns or giant volumes, Hacker News posts, anything, and you process them, you somehow figure out what the schemas are, or you have a schema, you just impose that, and you serve that up with the API layer. The edge device, which is what I'm going to demo, what this edge device can do is to see what the API is serving up and understand the human better. So the inference here is going to be used for trying to understand the context of the person. That's the trick. And you'll store the context locally. That's the second trick. So the personal data doesn't have to leave the device ever. But you don't have to do all the processing on the device also. So that's the architectural, pivot here. Okay? Here? So we'll jump right in. So if you want to use this product, you can go to techne.app. That's a Chrome extension. You can install it in your Chrome. And right now, it's a POC. And if you go to Hacker News, if you have this extension, it does this. How many of you gone to Hacker News before? Okay, I'm not talking to my people over here. So so you get these tags. You don't get these tags in the Hacker News, but you get these tags. What are these tags? If you click on one of them, it takes you to a discussion that is happening. It kind of characterizes the discussion as well. So it's like a more efficient way of reading Hacker News, what this system is at the moment. It's also keeping tabs locally on what have you been clicking around, right? So far so good. So it kind of knows what your interests are because you click on stuff. But I don't get that data. It's all on device. If you inspect the links in the browser DOM, they don't come to me, they go to Hacker News, right? There's no data coming to me, right? So far so good. So this is the production version that you can, again, if you try it, I'd love your feedback about it. We'll get rid of that. We'll install a version that I've been cooking up, which is here. So I've been using Cursor, it's my new best friend. A lot of people's new best friend. So I'm building the new version of the extension, and we'll drop it in. You can do this in Chrome. Go back here. And this new version has slightly different page here, okay? Not a lot of difference so far. This will basically do still what I was showing you. I mean, let's just click on a few things. Does anything over here interest you? Anybody?
The Python notebooks on GitHub.
Where is
No
that?
Hacker News, number 11.
Number 11. Number 11?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but the link, but the tags.
Huh?
Do you find any of the tags interesting?
WebAssembly Python.
Okay, cool. Any other tags that somebody finds interesting?
Hosting notebooks on GitHub pages.
Okay. So that's a discussion about that you can read. It's like, it's kind of pick somebody up the thread. Anything else?
Take the pedals off.
Huh?
Number 13.
Number 13?
Teaching kids to ride bikes.
Okay. That sounds like fun. So somebody's sharing knowledge about that on Hacker News.
On Hacker News, exactly.
I mean, it's a very social place. Okay, so we'll just keep those. So it's kept all these, right? And now, what we do, we'll open our trusty developer console so you can follow along. And refresh this page. Oh, sorry. It's saying that because I haven't turned the model on. I need to load the model. So we'll start with Gamma 2V. That's been my favorite. This model is going to download the model, put it in your browser cache, load it in the GPU memory right now. So this is using WebGPU, which was introduced by Chrome team last year. There's a project called WebLLM, which is whose APIs I'm using. And they recently put out a way to run the WebLLM in a background service worker on a browser. So it's a process that runs on your machine and has access to the GPUs on your machine if you have any GPUs on your machine. On a Mac, it will start using the shaders on the nice juicy shaders that we have on a lot of our Macs. So the neural processing units, that's what it fundamentally uses on it. And if you're on a Windows laptop, there is an equivalent of that on those laptops. And Chrome kind of just takes care of all that complexity for you. All the browsers, major browsers do now. They just give you a web GPU front end, and you can write your apps against that front end. Cool? So that's what this model is going to be doing. Inferences with that, let's talk to it. Hey, what is your name? Okay, it's Gamma. So we have Gamma, and it's running inside the browser. Let's just check. Yeah, so this is the process. You know, it was active, gone down because there's no inference going on anymore, right? So now we'll run this. And now it's going to process. So remember all those tags that were on each one of those stories? In reality, there's actually a lot more tags. I'm only showing you 3 per story, but there's like hundreds of tags for some of these stories that the backend has processed. Because there's like hundreds of comments and more than 1 tag per comment, different kinds of tags, there's all kinds of stuff you can inspect the API. But I'm only going to show you 3 because my job is to show you less, not more, and but show you the things that are actually relevant to you based on the history that you have. And that resolution between the history and what is on the story, that resolution is going to happen on device locally using an LLM, using a technique that is increasingly and frighteningly becoming more and more popular, which is to use LLMs for re-ranking. So we heard someone talk about re-ranking earlier with embeddings and cross-embedders and all that fun stuff that me and my ilk used to do in the good old, bad old days, I guess, of doing classical ML. We call it classical ML now. But it's all being done inside LLMs now. It's all in an inference call. And there's like a body of literature that is developing around doing those things inside LLMs. Because LLMs just get it. That's the thing. You just like have to prompt them appropriately and take care of a bunch of stuff. But they actually have a lot of understanding about the language that you're asking them. So let's go and check what it selected. What I have logged here are 2 things on per story. So by default, we just take the first 3 tags because they are ranked by karma by the backend. So I just take the first 3 and show them to you. But here, I'm taking the list and asking the LLM to say, hey, take this person's history into account and re-rank this and pick 3 or less if it thinks 3 are not relevant. So then you see these, right? So these are the historical tags it found. And it chose to, so you see this using different tags. It kept one of the top 3, but it's not using the other 2. It's kind of using simpler tags here. Same. So yeah, it's basically going to try and increasingly personalize the experience based on your history. It's a very naive prompt. I can show you the prompt and everything. It's like there's no trade secret here. But you can see and it does a pretty decent job. I mean, the thing with Hacker News is there's a lot of stuff which blends into each other very easily. So you don't see contrast, but if you actually really, really override it with one type of things, then you start seeing that it actually starts to influence what you see. Let's see maybe something more. Yeah. So yeah, here it did some really different things here in this case. Yeah. And I've tried different models and so on. Some models do better, some models are terrible. Gamma has been the best one so far. This is what I have for demo. Happy to answer any questions that you have.